So today we're going to be addressing 3 separate but common questions following the most recent episode of The Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 5 The Return. If you enjoy my videos or you're new to the channel, if you've not done so already, please be sure to hit that big red subscribe button down below, and why not hit the bell to be alerted every time that I post a new video. But no more jibber jabber, let's begin. So I want to begin with a very small but significant detail from the 5th episode, which I've not really seen too many fans pick up on. At the table on Pabu, Omega brings up Emerie Karr for the first time to her brothers, the clone scientist who is a sister to Omega, someone who's been trained and raised by Dr Hemlock from a very young age. Away from the warmth of a family and good socialization, this is going to be very important for later in the video, someone who had a lot of interactions with Crosshair and Omega on Tantiss. She is unsurprisingly, given her upbringing, a very robotic and uncharismatic person with a tedious and predictable way of going about her days, working in genetic manipulation, carrying out various blood tests, and furthering the projects of Hemlock and Palpatine. She is basically Hemlock's servant, and does very little else. She was never given the opportunity to live a regular, fulfilling life. But despite putting Omega through such a tough time as a prisoner, Omega still views her as family, since she is a clone and also her sister. There is still a lot unknown about Emerie's DNA, the nature of when and why she was created in the first place. But you do feel a large amount of sympathy towards her given the fact she didn't have a choice in her predicament. She is not an entirely evil character by any stretch, and I think sometimes genuine good intentions do come through, returning Omega's makeshift doll, giving Omega a second chance, and still labeling her family. And something I notice every time Omega brings her up is the fact she's got the compassion of someone like Luke, still seeing the good in those who wronged others or the entire galaxy. In Omega's adamant willingness to return to Tantiss to save clones, Emerie is very much part of that plan. Omega's affection, empathy, and ability for forgiveness was already one of the most established aspects of this season, but was more noticeable in this episode than ever before, because she's escaped Tantiss. She is on this idyllic planet Pabu, and so to have that willingness to now want to go back and save Emerie is extremely admirable. I can't imagine why she'd ever want to do that, but she does. It speaks volumes about the type of character she's become. The fact she specifically mentioned her at the table when Echo visited and describes her as a clone like us tells us the kind of loyalty Omega possesses and the impact her brothers have had. Remember that she believed in Crosshair when he stayed loyal to the Empire, and is a major part of the reason he's returned to his brothers, regrets his former choices, and now even likes his sister. Inadvertently, losing Tech, being separated from Crosshair for much of the first 2 seasons, and then Hunter and Wrecker, has taught Omega a lot about holding onto your loved ones and doing everything you can to protect them and save them. Omega sees the good in Emerie, which begs the question, is Emerie another character in the long list, due for redemption? I certainly think so. Despite some of the things she's been forced to do, Emerie's morality is something very interesting to take note of. Omega was initially distrustful of her due to the alliance she has with Hemlock, but it all changed when she learnt about Karr being a clone. I think Omega now has a firm understanding of how discriminated against and oppressed clones across the galaxy truly are following the end of the war. And to add to this, she got to meet Chuchi, fighting for clone rights. So Omega has a firm understanding of the fact that clones sometimes do make poor choices, but despite this, their personhood is never in doubt. So Omega wants to save Emerie because she's a clone, because she thinks there is good in her she can be swayed. Had Emerie not been taken off-world from a very young age to train under Hemlock, she would never be in this situation. As I say, it's not one she chose. And it's also worth considering, Emerie is quite humane, especially in comparison to the heartlessness of Hemlock, and she's even demonstrated favour and compassion towards some of the other Tantiss prisoners. I think she does have a primary sense of care that's been hidden and repressed by the evil of the Empire and specifically Hemlock. It would be very reductionist to say she is evil just based on face value. Whenever Omega asks her specifics, like why there's so many troopers on Tantiss, Emerie replies, Dr Hemlock will tell her if she needs to be in the know. This demonstrates a sort of passiveness, and similar to Crosshair and the other clones, following orders is all she's ever known. She's multi-dimensional, and I would say the hesitation that she demonstrates after Hemlock announces they need to go after Omega is foreshadowing a different allegiance, and if given the choice, when the Bad Batch finds Tantiss, I'm sure she'll go with them. She was very stubborn the first time Omega and Crosshair escaped, but I think Omega planted seeds of an upcoming epiphany. Even in Season 2, even under the guidance and direction of Hemlock, she seemed very protective of Crosshair, and I think this matters when it comes to viewing all clones as one big family. And this is very much in line with Captain Rex, Echo, Fireball, Nemec, that saving clones as a unity regardless of choices they've made is more important in the face of a repressive empire than what they've done. Poor choices, forced choices, don't really matter at the end of the day, not compared to coming together and standing up against the regime, something I think Omega is going to be a massive advocate for later in the season when we return to Coruscant. It'll be interesting to see where they go, but Omega's got Emerie in mind, even after escaping such a horrible place. And the final Bad Batch topic I want to talk about concerns something I mentioned in my full episode breakdown concerning Crosshair's hand. The tremors. Many have said this is PTSD. Hands shaking, flashbacks, memories of Tantiss. Others say this could be a side effect of an M-count transfer gone wrong, with subsequent degradation, and unlike Omega, his body not being suitable for Project Necromancer. But at the same time, I think Crosshair's shaking has answered a question we've had since Season 2. Every time we see Dr. Hemlock, he's always wearing a black glove on his left hand, and he's always rubbing it, almost trying to soothe it. So why does he do this? Apart from the fact it's a reference to Dr. Strangelove, I think there are implications in-universe. Given what we know about some of the tests done on Wayland, I'd like to wager a theory to explain why this is extremely important. I suspect that as the head of the Imperial Science Division, and as someone who shares Palpatine's dream and vision, maybe at some point he tried using his own DNA as part of the mix. Either he tried an M-count transfer and his hand degraded, or he used his entire original hand and the one he's got now is robotic. Maybe Palpatine insisted he used his own hand as a test of commitment, or maybe as punishment for previous failures. Alternatively, Hemlock is so dedicated to the project, he took a chance upon himself to use his own body if it would advance the Emperor's cloning pursuits. In addition to this theory, I've seen fans point out there are actual signs that the M-count transfer permanently affected him in significant ways. In Season 2, he was immune to the toxic gas that was used to subdue Crosshair. This could have been due to personal experimentation, or maybe the shaking hand is a side effect of such things he's been exposed to. Whatever the case, this detail is now well documented, and I think it's very deliberate, something which will be answered by the end of the season. But what do you guys think? Share your thoughts on the various theories we spoke about in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.